Welcome in for another edition of Armchair Quarterback. I'm David Allen, along with Coach Guy Suttle and Rob Roop. Each week here on Armchair Quarterback, we talk about our Cleveland County football teams. We'll talk about college football, Gardner-Webb University, and then we'll talk about the pros. And this is the first week of the pros coming up with the Thursday night kickoff, so we might even, if we can get around to it, we might mention that. We did have two big county rival games, though, to start the season. We've had back-to-back weeks of Cleveland County rival games, and now we won't have another one until the last week of the regular season. But we'll start that and talk about those. First of all, let's go up to Burns High School, where Kings Mountain was, I would say, favored to win that game. They did win that game, but guys, that game was a lot closer than we expected. As a matter of fact, Rob, Burns had the ball late at midfield after a Kings Mountain turnover. Honestly, could have won the football game.
And when we said last week, and I got to think about things we talked about, and the guy we mentioned, Max Davis, was how important he was going to be to that Burns team. And Max really played well Friday night. And Burns did what we said. They tried to limit Kings Mountain possessions. They did a much better job of streaming together first downs.
Yep. We talked about last week that punt is not always a bad play. And I think that's what Burns did, is they ball controlled a little bit on Kings Mountain, kept their offense on the sideline. That helped a lot.
Yeah, 40-34 was the final score. So, when you think about 74 points being scored, they're going up and down the field on each other, Rob.
Yeah, you're right. There was still times, but again, the thing was that they allowed it to stay within shouting distance. That 40, it wasn't a 40-7 at any point. They were able to keep it with the drives.
Well, here you see some of the highlights. That was the Bell kid throwing a touchdown pass, and then the extra point block. But and there's a big break and bust up the middle for a big long touchdown run for the Burns Bulldogs. So again, Coach, it's one of those things. It's an early season game. It's a rival game. So we always say you can throw the record book out and all those kinds of things. But here again, it comes down to blocking and tackling, and in just a couple of those clips, there we saw some poor execution of those things.
Yeah, well, when Burns broke the long run in that first Burns offensive clip, we, that brought back memories of last year's Burns-Crest game, where they kept limiting with their long runs and big gains and things, and running the football, shortened the game on Crest last year.
Absolutely. So we're looking at, looking at the highlight package here, and there was, Tex Vaughn. He was somebody that was quiet in the opener against Shelby, but was obviously, he's a weapon for the Kings Mountain offense, Rob, and so whether you throw it to him or not, you got to give him attention.
That's it. And whoever your best DB is, he's got to be on his side. So, you're going to hopefully either he's going to get his, or you're going to use him to let somebody else get theirs. And that's going to be the key, having a kid like that on your team.
Absolutely. Big play right there for a long play to set up a touchdown for the Kings Mountain Mountaineers. And, when you look at everything, Kings Mountain now 2-0 on the season, Coach.
Yeah, and, the Big South is going to be pretty testy with Ashbrook and some of the others. South Point. We've always talked about how it's always going to be, or it seems to always going to be, it's going to be Crest, Kings Mountain, and South Point, and whoever else can come along in Gaston County. And it looks like Ashbrook may be that team. But you can't count out any of the games. I saw some big scores from the other members of that conference. And it's just going to, it's one of those deals where the Big South is going to be a test each and every week. We get to Burns and Shelby, might be a little different for them.
So the final score on that one, Kings Mountain wins it 40-34. As I mentioned, Burns had a chance late that could have possibly tied it up or won it if they had scored a touchdown and got an extra point. Did not happen, and the Mountaineers hold on. So again, Kings Mountain improves to 2-0, Burns at 0-2, and when you flip to the other county matchup on Friday night, the exact same scenario. You got a 2-0 Crest now and an 0-2 Shelby. But Rob, I think a lot of people might have been surprised at how Shelby was able to keep that game close right up until the last 2 minutes of the ball game.
Yeah, I think early in that game, it kind of felt, Chris really had control of the game early. And then Shelby kind of went in a different direction. And then we see Land Farmer running the football. What I saw Land do Friday night, that changes his game so much now, and it changes the way you have to prepare for Shelby so much that you're going to be able to surprise some teams. Land was able to control the game a little bit with his legs, and we said if Shelby can run the football, they're going to win games, and their running game gave them a chance.
Well, and Farmer did have a good game running the football, Coach, but honestly, he may not have to run the ball again until November, with the schedule they got coming up in the conference.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a weekly thing, even for Shelby and Burns, even though they've got a few new members in the conference. We still don't know exactly where Lincoln's going to line up in the conference. So, as far as how well they're going to be, with Stuart Kramer actually moving down a little bit in classification, whether or not that helps them or not. But, yeah, I really don't see Shelby and Burns having to play, having much of a struggle until they get to the last game of the season.
And I meant to write his name down, 26.
Ross, I believe.
He wasn't on my roster. That's why I forgot. He wasn't on my roster Friday night when I was looking at his name. He ran the ball hard for Shelby.
I thought that when Crest scored right before the end of the first half, under a minute to go first half, to go up 21-7, and knowing that Crest got the opening kickoff to the second half, I thought that was a significant time in the ball game. And lo and behold, the Shelby defense just came out and stood up in the second half and really held Crest in check till, again, Crest kicked a field goal with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the ball game for their only points of the second half. And then, of course, they got the almost pick six, ended up at the 2-yard line. They were able to punch it in to finish out the scoring. But Shelby's defense really did a nice job in the second half.
And that's, we talked about, having a new defense coordinator, what we're expecting out of Shelby's defense this year. And I think you've got to be really excited if you're a Shelby fan to see what they did. Even going back to the Kings Mountain game, the defense played well against Kings Mountain. To me, played well enough to win. And then you hate to say it, but we played well enough to win again. It's going to be a really tough out now down the road for Shelby as the season progresses now.
Coach, we talked about Land Farmer running football. Eli Hamrick again showing for Crest that he has the ability from that quarterback position to run the football and make himself a legit dual threat.
Yeah, and that's the whole key to the zone read and all of that. If you're all you're going to do is zone read and hand it to the back, it takes away the read part. But if that guy crashes down the back and he pulls it and runs out the backside, now you've opened up counters, traps, all types of things, not only for your running back, but also you can design those plays for the quarterback also. And again, we know that you can run the zone read, take 2 steps, and chunk it down the field. All of that works in together. Is being able to run the football opens up a lot of possibilities. And when you got a quarterback and a running back that are dual threats, that just really opens it up for you. And I think Land Farmer has done the same thing. His number of carries Friday night, now defenses can't sit there where the defensive end says, hey, when that guy crosses quarterback's face, go straight down the line and tackle him for a yard loss. Because as soon as you do that, Land's going to pull it and go out, run out the backside. And that's a big weapon. That helps. That helps the offense coordinator call the plays.
Rob, I'm not going to say that we haven't seen the data analytics show its head in high school sports, because we know we have. But probably as big a thing that I've seen, or a big situation that I've seen, Shelby sends the kicker out on second down with 15 seconds left to get within a touchdown so they could possibly kick an onside kick and have like a Hail Mary potentially. Yeah. That's not something that you would have seen in high school sports, I don't think, in the last 100 years. Yeah. But there's an interesting point that happened in that ballgame. It didn't work out for Shelby, but it was an interesting play.
I thought the same thing when they brought that kicker. I thought, they're going to get that, try to get that points here, and then try to get the chance to have one more shot on the onside. I thought the same thing, Dave, when it happened. I thought you'd never see that. You just said, they're taking that shot to the end zone, taking that shot to the end zone. Let's line up, let's get the points and go from there. Maybe a better chance to recover an onside kick.
And the onside kick was loose for a thought. So, it was worth a shot. So there's the final, 31-24, Crest over Shelby. Again, as I mentioned, Crest improves to 2-0. Shelby drops to 0-2. Now, Shelby and Burns, because of that 9-team conference, they'll start conference play this coming Friday night. Kings Mountain and Crest Hill have another non-conference week before getting into conference. We'll come back. We'll talk about the 4 matchups we've got coming up on Friday night, and we'll get into a little college football, a big weekend for essentially the first weekend of the season. And then we'll mention even maybe the big trade in Big D and get me fired up about that. We'll do that when we come back. You're watching Armchair Quarterback. Welcome back into Armchair Quarterback. I'm David Allen, along with Guy Suttle and Rob Roop. Each week we talk about our high school football teams here in Cleveland County. We'll talk college and pro. This week we'll go ahead and look at the games coming up on the schedule. First of all, Burns looking to get off the schneid after an 0-2 start. They got East Gaston coming to town, and guys, only a couple of times over the last probably, my life, 57 years, have we talked about East Gaston in a manner of, hey, they can be competitive, they're good, they're decent, blah, blah, blah. They're 0-2 as well. This ought to be a game that Burns can win, should win, will win. But at the same time, when you're 0-2, you don't really know until you get that first win, Coach.
Oh, yeah, and this is going back to what you said. It's probably been 20 years when Greg Lloyd was the head coach at East Gaston in 2005 is the last time that, Anyway, moving on, the Burns Bulldogs are going to feel a lot better about themselves this time next week. And it's simply because they have played 2 quality opponents over the last 2 weeks, and now they're going to step into conference play against the East Gaston team that is not played the same type of non-conference games.
Well, and, we talk about this every year, Rob, especially with Shelby and Burns, playing bigger schools, whether it's Crest and Kings Mountain as it is this year, or whether you throw in an AC Reynolds or whoever else, the quality of opponents in the non-conference is always superior for our local schools, and that shows up when they get into conference play.
You're exactly right, David. That's the thing you got to love about our area, that we don't go looking for winnable games, go looking for games to make you better, and that's what our county teams do. This game's going to be ugly Friday night. East Gaston going through a coaching change. They're trying to change trying to change their culture over there at East Gaston. Burns gets their first win Friday night. The thing I want to see more involvement in the offense with Drew Dixon, getting more comfortable at the quarterback spot. A chance to maybe do some things you couldn't do against Kings Mountain. Work on the other things now against East Gaston.
All right, so that is Burns hosting East Gaston. Don't let the records keep you out of that one. Again, we encourage you, go every Friday night to support your school, no matter who they're playing, no matter what the scenario, because your rear end in the seat, paying for that, helps the overall athletic program. And I'll say that every week just to remind you, and you'll get sick of hearing it, because as a former high school principal, that's what I do. Asheville at Crest. This one should be a good one, Coach.
Yeah.
Don't know that much about Asheville,
Yeah.
but I mean, usually a quality program, and that's not one that Crest can just overlook.
And a lot of people may forget, Court Radford, the head coach at Asheville, was the defense coordinator at Crest several years ago. And, again, we know that Asheville's going to have athletes. They're going to have the skilled people. It's going to come back to the people up front. I just think it's going to be a really good game for Crest to, not being an in-county game, get yourself ready to play and play against a quality opponent. I think it'll be a good ball game.
Crest offensive line had some trouble with the Shelby defensive line on Friday night, Rob. So, that's an area that I'm sure Coach Lloyd is going to focus on as they prepare for the Cougars on Friday night.
And I got to look at some of Asheville's numbers. So far, they've been about as successful as a screen door on a submarine stopping water. Their defense has really struggled early on. East Rutherford should have beat Asheville. I think the game had been like 41-38, something like that. And then the Tennessee team beat Asheville this past Friday night. Again, issues on the defensive side of the ball. So if I'm Crest with your offense, again, a chance to do some things with the football. And Dave, you make a great point. I think I want to shore up that offensive line a little bit more. They've looked a little jumpy Friday night, and I don't think you expected that because they had a lot of guys back from last year. You did not want to see that in a big game. You got to see those guys locked in.
All right, so Sid Bryson Stadium, the site for that one. So you definitely, again, want to get out there and support the Chargers as they host Asheville. Kings Mountain will be at home as well. So 3 of the 4 at home, and the first 3 we talked about all at home. Kings Mountain at home, 2-0 against Bandy's. Coach, I mean, when we saw Bandy's in the high school playoffs back in the 90s, Coach Lohman had them going, and they were really tough. But Bandy's another one of those teams. I hadn't heard a lot out of Bandy's in a long time, and now here they get to go get their belly full of Kings Mountain.
Yeah, and we've talked about this is the 3rd game that we've talked about. There's one thing that's going to be for sure, even when Shelby goes to Highland Tech, which we'll talk to in a second, is how quiet the stadiums are going to be when they come out to warm up. I mean, when the county rivals are playing each other and the gates open at 6 o'clock and you go out there to warm up and there's already people cheering just when you come out there to stretch. All of that's going to change Friday night, whether it's, and especially with Kings Mountain and Bandy's being at Kings Mountain. Those stadiums are going to be a little quieter on Friday, and that's one thing that coaches have to battle is there's not as much anticipation or hoopla with that game, but you still got to get yourself ready to play football. Bandy's, on the other hand, I saw they were 1-0, but we don't know the quality of what they're playing. There's one thing for sure. I feel very confident in what Kings Mountain, what Burns, Crest, Kings Mountain, and Shelby have done over the last 2 weeks, and that's played quality football games.
Rob, you mentioned Drew Dixon, quarterback at Burns, still trying to kind of get it all together as he is taking over at that quarterback position. KJ Bell, same situation at Kings Mountain, and we saw the highlights earlier of his play against Burns. He's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, and again, he's got one of the best receivers in the state in Tex Vaughn. So if he can just have time and confidence to give the ball to the big man, that's going to bode well for him as he breaks into that quarterback spot.
And I think for both of them, for Bell and for Drew Dixon as well, for me the best thing they've got going for them is Drew's got Max Davis running the football, and then KJ Bell's got Dry, who come in from Northwest Cabarrus, running the football for him. Again, that is a young quarterback's best friend, having that good running back, because in that way, as Coach talked about, when you've got to be accountable for certain things in an offense, if you're having to pay attention to that running game, then I go over the top to a guy like Tex Vaughn, and then I'm really, the machine's really going then when I got all the pieces going.
No question about it. So Kings Mountain at home against Bandy's on Friday night. And then our final game of the week is Shelby at Highland Tech. I was kind of hoping that they wouldn't play at Highland Tech anymore. I mean, it's a 97-yard field. It's kind of falls off on one end. You kick a field goal or an extra point, and it goes in the highway, kind of a thing, or in the woods or wherever it's going. Anyway, Coach, 77-0, I think, was the score in this one last year. Shelby's
gonna be at least that bad.
Shelby's 0-2, but the Golden Lions will get right on Friday night.
Yeah, 11 touchdowns will not be out of the scope again this Friday night. And you know, if you have any dinged up players or for anybody's even sore or whatever, they're still going to be able to play and produce and move on from there. But it is a shame that Highland Tech keeps doing what they're doing, which is playing in a field that doesn't need to be on the schedule.
Well, and Rob, again, you know, we've pointed this out over the last 4 years with Shelby and Burns and conference they were in. You know, Highland Tech doesn't have a JV team, so again, you know, the Shelby JVs off to a slow start again in the county with the 2 losses against Kings Mountain and Crest, and now they don't even have a chance to get right against Highland Tech because Highland don't have a team.
And see, to me, again, the state wants to talk about realignment, classifications, size of schools, this and that. You need to start looking at those things. What does a Highland Tech as a program bring to Shelby and Burns and even East Gaston and Lincoln and those schools? Why is Highland Tech not in the same league with Cherryville and Bessemer City? Not taking anything away from Cherryville and BC, but to me, Highland Tech, they fit in better with to play Cherryville and Bessemer City versus playing Shelby and Burns.
Well, unfortunately, they are in the conference with Cherryville and Bessemer City.
But they shouldn't be. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
No.
you take that crowd out,
Right.
away from Lincoln and West Lincoln. Why are we bringing those in with them when we should have went the other direction with it?
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. It's crazy. I mean, we look at the size of the school for Highland Tech, and then, you know, I'm just going to throw a team out there. If you bring a Mount Airy into the mix, let's say that they were close enough to be in the conference, then they bring, even though they're that small, that size, they still bring a JV team. They still bring quality football, things of this nature. You know, the state, you could almost, I mean, we do it in college. You got Division I, you got the next division. So, I mean, it's, I don't know how to explain it really, but yeah, Highland Tech doesn't need to be playing in a league that has all these abilities to go out there and put a quality team on the field.
And my thing is, and I know we've kind of beat this horse, and I understand that, but I to me, I think we need to beat it every chance we get. If I'm a kid and I play for Highland Tech, how do I feel Friday night?
Yeah.
When I walk out on that field, knowing there is when I walk out on that field and I look across, there is a noticeable difference in what I'm bringing on the field versus what I'm seeing on the field, and what kind of confidence do I build in that game? I was talking to somebody about BC, as a matter of fact, and that was their concern. They said it's not the fact that we're having to play these bigger schools. We can't build confidence. At no point in our schedule can we build confidence because we're having to play teams we know we can't beat. Let us play teams that are similar to us and allow us to build confidence through the year instead of us going on Friday night saying, you know, we don't have a shot. Let's hopefully hold on to 70.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Rutherford County for years, it was called the Cleveland County Flu on those Friday nights when they played folks from Shelby and Cleveland County. East Gaston at Burns, Asheville at Crest, Bandy's at Kings Mountain, Shelby at Highland Tech. And even though it is what it is, buy your ticket and go to Gastonia and support Shelby at Highland Tech on Friday night. We only got about 5 minutes left. So let's do this quickly. So big weekend for the ACC. Thought it was going to be maybe Clemson. Couldn't get it done last night against LSU. They lose 17-10. Coach, that is a big loss, but it comes early, so Clemson has time to recover.
Yeah, and it just goes, if you look at even the Texas score for number 1 and number 4, it just shows you that defenses in Division I right now are way ahead of the offense, and usually you don't see that. It's usually a juggernaut, and we see college scores. I know we see college scores that are lopsided, or you know they're scored 90 and 100 points this weekend, but for those top teams, the defenses really have looked strong in those 2 games. Whether you have Clemson at number 4 and you had Texas and Ohio State low scoring, and then you have Alabama getting
Well, Rob, let's talk about that. So Florida State goes and gets the Bessemer City, the Boston College at BC. They go get the Boston College quarterback, and he runs all over the top of Alabama last night.
And maybe the best move that Florida State made was bringing Gus Malzahn in as offense coordinator.
Absolutely.
And that's where they again, you talk about a program that had to change everything they were doing. Florida State knew they had to do that by making those changes, bringing Gus Malzahn to call the offense. And it showed. I mean, they lined up and they ran the ball down Alabama's throat, and there was nothing Alabama could do to stop it.
East Carolina negative yardage against NC State and still somehow only lost by a touchdown. NC State 24-17 in that one. Georgia Tech, a big win against Deion Sanders in Colorado 27-20. Wake Forest 10-9 over Kennesaw State. Not sure what happened in that one. Duke with a big win over Elon. Syracuse took a beating to Tennessee, but outside of that, the conference did kind of what it needed to do. Appalachian with a big win over UNC Charlotte. How about the Gardner-Webb Bulldogs? 52-45, I think, or something in that neighborhood, Coach.
In Cullowhee.
At Western Carolina, so that's a good win for
We're
Gardner-Webb.
down 28-7 in that game, the biggest margin I've ever come back from.
Unfortunately for Gardner-Webb, they go to Georgia Tech next week, Rob, so that's probably not going to go well for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I don't see it being 2-0.
So we got Illinois, number 12 in the country, coming to your boys at
gonna be a good
Wallace
one.
Wade on coming up this next week.
You know, again, if you're a fan of the ACC, looking for ACC burst, you need Duke to win this game. You need them to beat Illinois.
Yeah.
All right, so you got Carolina and TCU on Monday Night Football. The Bill Belichick era finally gets underway. We'll see if the Tar Heels can help cement that good first week for the ACC with a big win against TCU, or the opposite. We'll see what happens with that. Carolina plays at UNC Charlotte, a rare Carolina in the city of Charlotte taking on the 49ers next week. And then you got a big game in the national scheme, Michigan at Oklahoma next weekend. We're down to just a couple of minutes. Let's talk about the NFL. Biggest trade that's happened in a while. The Dallas Cowboys trade Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers for a couple of first-round picks and a defensive tackle. Rob, talk me off the ledge on that one.
I'll be honest with you, David. As a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I am so tickled Jerry Jones owns the Cowboys. I can't stand it. So,
Appreciate it.
congratulations, you got your owner.
Appreciate it. Coach, the Panthers, everybody's excited, I think, about the Panthers because of the way Bryce Young kind of rebounded and played well at the end of the last year. If they can be better on defense at all,
Yes.
because they were terrible on defense last year, you never know. The Panthers could be a playoff team this year.
They could be. I mean, there's still one good thing is they're in the South, and that helps them. That helps them in that that's not one of the stronger NFL conferences around.
I guess my thing is, though, why do you trade away his most sure-handed wide receiver?
Well.
If you want to give your young quarterback a chance, why do you send his best receiver back to Minnesota?
Well, I think that probably had as much to do with Adam Thielen wanting to go back to Minnesota and get back to the place where he grew up and called home, because he's a native Minnesotan. I think that probably had as much to do with that as anything. We're under a minute to go, but Super Bowl picks. Give me one team that's going to potentially win the Super Bowl this year, guy.
Detroit Lions.
Okay, Rob.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, come on. The Kansas City Chiefs go back to back, maybe, but I don't know. I'm a Cowboys fan, so definitely not going to pick the Eagles. I think I'm going to go Cincinnati Bengals, man. Let's mix it up. Get Joe Burrow. He doesn't have a defense, but he can score about 40 a game. Hey, that's all the time we have for this week. See us next week right here on Armchair Quarterback.